Good evening, everyone. I'm waiting on a few more people to enter the room, and we'll begin. Welcome to the TD Town Hall. My name is Ranae Bartlett, and I am the Executive Director of US Chess. With me this evening and presenting are Jeff Wiewel, our Chair of TDCC, and Martha Underwood, Executive Board Member Dave Hayter, and SafePlay Manager Melinda Matthews. I'd like to begin by sharing just a quick update about some technology matters that we've been working on here at US Chess. First, I'd like to give you an update on the rating server rebuild. A number of you know that we've been working on updating our rating server and system. We're redesigning and rebuilding the rating server. In addition, we're building an online platform for listing, running, and managing chess tournaments directly connected to the rating server. Now, the executive board has entered a contract with Lego, a Canadian company that is currently serving the Go community, American Go, Canadian Go, North American Go, and they have their own rating system and server. And that is the company that is going to help us build ours. We're also working on website updates. We're redesigning and rebuilding the user dashboard and affiliate dashboard, as well as updating the user sign-up flow. We're redoing our website and content strategy to better communicate, align with, and support our mission. And we have a new strategy to focus on promoting chess and chess clubs through social media, engagement, and strategic online content. Here's our timeline. We'd like to let you know that the website updates, including some of the complaints you've had about duplicate memberships, those things will be completed for the member dashboard by September, and then the rest of the website by the end of the year. Our rating server rebuild is estimated to be completed by the end of the first quarter of next year. And we've estimated in 2025 that by the summer, we will have our tournaments platform updated. I'd like to hand things over to Jeff Wiewel, who will share his presentation for tournament directors.
Okay. And hopefully you can see that. Okay. As far as this goes, one of the things that people were asking for on the town hall was information on the certification. And one thing that fortuitously happened is shortly before the town hall idea came up, Christina Schweiss ended up making her own, can't get up to, let's shift this. There you go. Ended up making her own document to more quickly, easily go through all of the levels of certification. And that's actually on the tournament director's website under certification rules. Demystification comes in right here. And now going back to the presentation. And she went through all the things here, what governs it, rules, conditions, various levels of TDs and the resources. And the Chapter 7 is what governs it. That's a free chapter that you can get to on the website. You'll see it under that tournament director page that I gave earlier. And a few things as far as all tournaments, all TDs. You have to be active for SafeSport. That's obviously new, and the rest of the a good portion of the rest of the meeting will be covering that. You have to have a current US chess membership. If it lapses, you've got a little bit of time to renew and retain your current certification, but you should be having difficulty seeing past some of the stuff. You shouldn't let that lapse for too long. And of course, for anyone taking a test for anything higher than Club TD, you have to have a current rating, active ratings. That's a regular rating, established 26 plus games, at least one non-loss, one non-win. This gives the things you need to do to become a Club TD: read, submit, no test for the first 3 years. And then once those 3 years are up, you need to take the test. I'm not going to read through everything. You can look at the document later. For local tournament director, there you have to do some directing. You need at least 3 directing credits of various types. One has to be a chief, one has to be chief or chief assistant. It has to be a total of at least 50 players. The club certification lasts 3 years, local 4. All of them require SafeSport. Oops, skipped ahead a little bit faster than I expected. And getting down to senior, now you're getting into more stuff. 10 tournaments, 5 as chief, another as chief assistant, 4 more chief assistant or chief or other substitutions. You have to be submitting some stuff online. And of course, you still have to maintain SafeSport. For the club, you shouldn't do more than 60 players if you have an assistant in a pairing program. For a local, 120. For senior, it's 360. Those are limitations. And what I found is back when I was a local, when something unanticipated came up, Chief TD got in a car accident and wasn't able to make it the night before the tournament. I had a very good crew, and I barely made it through with the skin of my teeth as a local TD. So those suggestions really are important, because if you go over it, you will be in over your head, and you need some luck to get through. Associate National, now you get a bunch more requirements, and as the level goes up, the length of the certification goes up from 3 for club, 4 for local, 5 for senior, 6 for ANTD. And the ANTD has some additional requirements, such as big money tournaments, a round robin, working at some very large tournaments as either section chief or chief assistant to an NTD. And the substitutions are more involved too. The tournaments have to be larger, 100 plus players versus 50 plus for the senior, in any size for local. When you move up to NTD, a number of other things need to be involved, and ANTD and NTD are the only ones that can run national events. And for the larger national events, it's only NTD, or for the premier ones like the US Championship. You also have the team requirement and another requirement to be chief assistant to an NTD at a national tournament. And here I did really quickly go through some of these links before. The TD certification rule, well, the TD Director Hub is right here. That's at US Chess Org Tournament Directors. And on there, it has the one to the certification rules and the demystifying. That's demystifying here, certification rules here. So that's a real quick rundown. The demystifying is a useful first draft. You can look at that, and that'll resolve most of your issues. Then when you get down to the details where you're not quite at the point where you have all of them and you want to look at substitutions, then you can look at the regular certification rules. And I think it's back to you, Ranae.
Thanks, Jeff. And just so everyone knows, we will be making these presentations available online after we're done. And Melinda, you now have the SafePlay portion.
Mute. Okay, let me go up to the beginning here. Okay, so thank you all for joining us today. I know SafePlay there have been a lot of questions about it, so we're hoping to answer some of the questions, dispel some of the myths that have been around it, and just give you some practical advice about what this is all about. So, first, what is SafePlay? And we are committed to providing a safe environment for all chess players. And so we have 4 prongs to this. It's educating, screening, reporting, and policies to help us maintain appropriate conduct in chess. And we have absolutely zero tolerance for abuse and misconduct, and we are really working hard to make sure that everybody understands that this is important. One of the questions that people have is, what is SafeSport and what is SafePlay? These two get conflated quite a bit. SafeSport is the nonprofit organization that was authorized by Congress in the wake of the gymnastics scandals to help prevent abuse, educate, and require accountability for Olympic sports. But they also make training and educational resources available to other organizations. Meanwhile, SafePlay is our program. It's a program that U.S. Chess established to provide a safe environment for players, and we are governed by the SafePlay policy, and that provides the procedures and that provides procedures and how we implement the policy. So the relationship between U.S. Chess and SafeSport is that we have contracted with SafeSport to access their training modules. So SafeSport themselves has no jurisdiction over our policy or how it's implemented. We are only using their modules. So if you get confused reading the SafeSport policies, they're not ours. So don't look at those. Look at our SafeSport policy, SafePlay policy, if you have any questions. So I'm sorry, I have a lot of little pictures in front of me, so it's making it hard for me to see. So one of the questions people come up with is, why is SafeSport training necessary? And SafeSport training is necessary because it's the industry standard for all organized sports, and we want to be held to the same standards as other organizations. So the industry standard is to require regular safety training for all adults who interact with minors in their roles as organizers, coach, or authority figures. And a lot of times the tournament directors act as all 3. So what are some of the benefits of SafeSport training? It's right here on the slide. It arms TDs with a toolkit of responses on how to manage potential safe play situations. It gives TDs resources that help explain their rights and their responsibilities. It outlines steps for reporting violations if you need to, and it helps you identify and remove those who are acting inappropriately. And the most important part of all of this and why we started SafePlay is because it helps protect our players and keep our community safe. So another area of confusion is who is required to take SafeSport training. So we've broken it down. There's a hierarchy at national events that U.S. Chess runs and organizes. Well, first of all, at every level, tournament directors have to be certified. At national events that we organize, it's tournament directors, any independent contractor or vendor that we hire, all of the employees and tournament staff, and then anyone else with an official presence. So that could be committee members or the guest grandmasters, or if we have customer-facing volunteers, which we have used in the past. We really don't have them now, but that may come back again. So at national events that are bid out for us, we require the tournament staff and employees to be certified, and anyone with an official presence, someone who's running a camp or a guest teacher or a lecturer, or once again, customer-facing volunteers. And then others can be at the organizer's discretion. The rule of thumb is if something did happen, who would be liable? And if you would be liable, you probably want to have that person SafeSport trained. In all other events that are sanctioned or rated by US Chess, the tournament directors have to be certified. And after that, it's at your discretion. Once again, I would use the same rule of thumb. If who would be liable if something happened, and if you as the organizer or tournament director would be liable, you probably want to have that person SafeSport trained. We have, can you see the whole, well, anyway, we have started out with TDs. What is that? Hang on, sorry. Okay, we started out with TDs because TDs are the people who are on the front lines of our tournaments. So we want SafeSport trained TDs because they learn how to approach really potentially difficult situations. They may be able at times to prevent them, and we'll have someone talking more about that later on. Because of the nature of the SafeSport training, we do require that anyone taking the training be over 13. But that doesn't mean you have to stop there. Any US Chess member can take SafeSport training. So any organizers, volunteers, parents, spectators, coaches, anyone should take it because they can also benefit by taking it. So don't feel like it's limited to TDs. And I just spoke to somebody today about people who aren't US Chess members, and yes, they can do it too. We have a special code for them to input into the training module so they can take the training for the $19 as well. So this is a very quick overview, but what do you do when a SafePlay situation arises? The very first thing you always do is make sure that the victim feels like they're safe. If it's a situation that requires separate, you assess the situation and separate the victims from any alleged perpetrators while you investigate if you feel that's necessary. You will notify local law enforcement if it's mandated or warranted, and we'll get into that later. It's not always. And then we want to point out that you as the TD has the power and you have the discretion to manage the SafePlay situation. You can remove, suspend, or ban disruptive players from your clubs or your tournaments. You don't have to report necessarily to US Chess about that. We recommend that you notify us if you feel that somebody could be a threat outside of your jurisdiction, like if you think they might cross state lines and be disruptive there. And then if you're at an event that we have organized, then you report that to the chief TD, and they will coordinate with SafePlay if they think it's necessary. But we do want you to recognize that not all incidents do have to be escalated to us. You do have the discretion to do what you think is right in the moment with your club. And this is a reminder that if you do make a decision to ban or suspend or remove somebody from a tournament, it does not affect their US Chess membership. Only US Chess has the ability to revoke a membership or suspend somebody from playing nationally. Any decision you make is just pertinent to your club. And we will become involved if we receive a first-party complaint on a SafePlay report, or a third party files an ethics or other complaint with us. I also want to, this is all in the SafePlay policy, but another question has come up is what's bullying? What rises to the level of a SafePlay complaint? And we have two definitions in our SafePlay policy. And bullying is the repeated and severe aggressive behavior. And it's intended to hurt or control or diminish another person. And it's based on the perception of the victim, bystander, or witnesses, and can be physical, verbal, social, or gender-based. Our other definition is rude, mean, and conflict, which a lot of people might also call like unsportsmanlike behavior, but that is inadvertent. And it often arises just out of a conflict where there's no power imbalance. And so this might not necessarily rise to the level of bullying behavior. It might be something more that needs to be negotiated or managed over the, over the board or after a game between the two players, possibly their parents if they're children, and that might be sufficient. And we have more details in the Safe Play policy if you want to look that up. Another question has been on mandatory reporting, because I think there's a lot of concern about you have to report everything. And so Ranae is going to talk a little bit more about that later on, but I'm just going to go through very quickly what mandatory reporting is. And it is a law that requires all people, that requires people or certain professionals to report suspected child abuse or neglect concerns. All states and the District of Columbia has some sort of mandatory reporting law. They're all different in each state. Some states require all adults to report. Every adult is mandatory reporter. Some states, it's professionals such as teachers or doctors or something like that. So what's really important for you is to know what the law is in the state your tournament is being held in. The other thing you need to do is read the definition of what is considered abuse in that state, because very few things rise to the level of mandatory reporting. It's usually based on something that's physical, emotional, or sexual abuse of a child. A lot of our bullying or harassment instances may not rise to that. So just make sure you read the definition of what needs to be reported very carefully for the state that you're in. And we've created a cheat sheet. This is a live link. I'm not going to click on it now. We've created a cheat sheet for every state. It goes through every state, gives the highlights of what the reporting requirements are and who needs to report, and then also gives you links to the state's full law if you need to get deeper than that. But that will help you if you just want to read through that. If you're TDing in another state and you don't know what's happening there, they'll just give you an idea of what you are responsible to report. So if you do decide to report, it's important to know, and this is for Safe Play only, TDs and other third parties cannot file a Safe Play report on behalf of somebody. You can notify us that something has happened. We can be aware of it, and you can act as a witness. But if a Safe Play incident occurs, you can advise the complainant of their options, including reporting to us, and you can certainly give them all the information. But if you report it, we really can't do much more than hold on to it, because we don't have we need to have a first party accounting of what happens. The Safe Play Hub can be a good resource to look up mandatory reporting requirements if minors are involved. And I suggest always, if you think it's getting to a level where it's, that you might come back, make sure you document the complaint for your records, even if it doesn't come to us. You just may want to know about it. And this is just a pretty slide showing you the different ways you can report. One of the things we also want to get into is that complaints can be filed anonymously, but that's going to limit what we can investigate, because once again, the person who's being accused has the right to due process. And so they, at some point, need to know what exactly they're being accused of, and who's doing the accusing. So if somebody does not want even the person who they're accusing to know who has made the complaint, all we can do is investigate and take their statement, and we file it and we hold on to it in case they want to come forward later. We will never reveal somebody's name to the public, but within the investigation, certain people would have to know. And so that's why this is the extent of the investigation is going to be dependent on how much anonymity is requested. We've had questions about registered sex offenders. And our safe play policy is that they cannot play in any tournament with minors. So if there's an adult only tournament, they can play in those. The burden is not on the TD or the organizer to identify registered sex offenders. It's on the sex offender to let the organizer know that they're on the registry. But if you happen, if as you're taking in the registration, you happen to know that somebody is a registered sex offender and you know about this, then you do need to notify that individual that they cannot play in your event. So if you have the knowledge, you need to act on it, but we're not asking you to look at every single person who's registering for your tournament to look them up and see if they're on a state registry somewhere. And then if you do become aware that somebody was present at your tournament after the event, you are able to file a report with us and let us know. So we've had a couple of concerns that have come up. And one of them is that TDs are trained to not interfere, and SafeSport training seems to require the opposite. And I'm going to pass this to Jeff, and he's going to talk about this and also the next slide.
Yeah, part of the reason for the non-interference of TDs is because a TD has a lot of stuff to do during a tournament, and any of the relatively minor things that the TD won't be able to see in every game, the TD has been trained to not interfere, and something that the rule goes even farther than it really does. For instance, the illegal move monitoring. Most people think that the standard rule is for the TD to not call illegal moves. That's actually incorrect. The standard rule is for TDs to call illegal moves, but the variation for a large player to TD ratio says that this perfectly acceptable variation is that the TD not call it. And it's things like that where the size of the number of players versus the number of TDs has helped fuel the TD to not interfere unless absolutely necessary. For instance, if there's a result missing, a TD is going to find out. When it comes to SafeSport, the safe play, that is a higher priority. So on something like that, it's perfectly acceptable and appropriate and pretty much desirable for a TD to interfere when it's needed there. And that's just because of the difference between the non-interference for the relatively minor things versus the interference that's going to be needed to protect the safety of the players.
Thank you, Jeff. And Jeff's also going to talk about another concern, which we've heard quite a bit, and that's not fair that TDs have to pay for the SafeSport training.
Yeah, there was a forum thread recently, and I responded on that, and part of the response prompted the Federation to think I'd be good in talking on this. And in that thread, it was said that when it comes to people that have made posts before, they've said things like the test, even with its $20 fee, 19 with the discount, is a bit of a time financial burden, a bit of a time waster, possibly intrusive, can even be insulting to some TDs. And in this day and age, that's absolutely necessary. You can't do that, do events nowadays without realizing that this is something you need to take into account. Granted, I'd prefer to be more chess specific, but you have to start somewhere. Some people would have preferred spending a lot of time making the testing perfect, but you have to think about the old bromide that anyone in corporate life knows that eventually in any project, there comes a time when you have to shoot the engineers and go into production. Granted, that sounds a little bit violent. It really boils down to engineers will try to fiddle with things to make them perfect and delay production as long as they can until they reach perfection. And that's just not going to happen in any reasonable amount of time. So no, the testing's not perfect, but we wouldn't want to wait the months or the years needed to make it perfect. So definitely don't wait. And we can look into improvements as time goes on. What really boils down to is the other old saying that the longest journey begins with a single step. Granted, this journey looks to be a lot longer than most people are comfortable to admit, but we need to take that first step, and then we have to keep people from holding others back so we can continue taking steps.
Thank you, Jeff. And now we're going to address some myths that have also been floating about. One is that US Chess is making money on this by charging the $19 for the main course and the refresher course. And David Hayter is going to speak about this, David.
Well, the first thing I'll say is the fact we are not making a penny off this. All the $19 for the main course and the $9 for the refresher, every penny of that goes to the SafeSport organization, and that's to compensate them for their overhead in running the training modules. They have fixed costs, they have employees. We have entered into a contract with them. We do not get any commission, we don't get any rebate. This is what they charge for providing their service. They have costs, they have employees, and it's a cost of doing business. I would point out that for those who might be licensed by FIDE, FIDE charges a fee for being a certified arbiter. US Chess does not. Your membership dues and various other revenue from the Chess Federation, rating fees, that sort of thing, that's how we cover our costs. But we are not the SafeSport organization. They have to cover their costs or they have to bill us. I can tell you that when this was discussed by the executive board, there was a lot of discussion in this, and there were a lot of options considered. Jeff talked about some of them. Should we design our own module, design our own course? Well, that requires expertise, that requires resources. We subcontracted this out because SafeSport are the recognized congressionally mandated experts at this, and we're paying for that expertise. That's where the money is going.
Thank you, David. Another myth is centered on liability. There's concern that taking the SafeSport training will increase liability. And Ranae, can you talk about that, please?
Sure, I'd be happy to. When it comes to SafeSport training, mandatory reporting is the area with the greatest misconceptions. Mandatory reporting involves minors, children, when you have reasonable cause to believe that a child is the victim of abuse or neglect. In every state, certain professionals, teachers, physicians, child care workers have a duty to report child abuse or neglect. But in 18 states, not only are these professionals required to report, but any person with reasonable cause to believe a child is the victim of abuse or neglect must report. The training that you've received as TDs from the Center for SafeSport does not create liability. Instead, it raises your awareness of state laws that require you to report. Now, Melinda mentioned earlier the SafePlay Hub and the resources page, where you will see a state guide for mandatory reporting. And in that guide, we highlight in yellow those states where any person is considered a mandatory reporter. SafeSport training does not increase your liability. It helps raise awareness so that you are aware of what is required in your jurisdiction.
Thanks, Ranae. And now the last myth that we want to talk about is, now that we have SafePlay in place, everything has to be reported to US Chess, everything has to be reported to state law enforcement. And Martha Underwood is going to speak to that for us. Martha?
Well, I was just going to give an anecdotal example that happened over the past weekend at Elementary Nationals. And what happened was a tournament director, a floor tournament director, saw another player make a threatening gesture to the opponent. And the player who was threatened, I think, felt empowered by the announcement at the front of every round about how seriously we take this, and to mention any act of unfairness or feeling threatened in any manner, and raised their hand and told the tournament director this player's threatening me, and even said they were going to kill the knight, but did so by threatening toward the player with a gesture. And these were little kids. So the tournament director called me over as a section chief, and I interviewed both of them and talked to them quietly. There were no other players near them at the time, so I was able to interview them. And the player who made the threatening comment admitted it right away. And the other player said, it was scary, I didn't like it. And we went on from there. And I said to the other player, I just resolved it at the board. The point of me giving you this example is a lot of these resolutions, which a lot of us have been doing for our careers as tournament directors all the time, you might think now, because of SafePlay, we need to elevate it to a higher person at US Chess. But what happened was so successful because the player who felt threatened raised his hand. The player who made the threat apologized at the board very specifically for making that threat, the gesture, and using the words. They went on to finish the game. And when it was over, I kind of watched and said, you understand we need to talk to your parents about this. We brought both their parents in to a separate part of the playing hall, sat down, and the parents were so pleased with this process, particularly the one of the person who made the threat, because that parent didn't want her son, I shouldn't have said boy or girl, her child acting that way. And then the other player, this parent, was so proud of her player for speaking up and saying, I don't like being spoken to that way. And the resolution was, which was really cute, and I showed this image because all of us, the parents and myself, were very moved by this interaction, which both players explained completely honestly, was a pinky promise that one player said to the other, we promise to be nice to each other and have fair play throughout the rest of this tournament. And the reason why I share this example with you is the gesture was quite threatening. And some of us might, again, think we would need to elevate something like that, right? And we need to figure it out. And obviously these were little kids, so it was a little bit easier to talk to them. But I believe you could talk with people at any level and work out a resolution that feels complete right there in the playing hall, so it doesn't have to go any higher. There were actually 6 incidents similar to that. And this was the most egregious one, and the one that was honestly the player was the most afraid. But we resolved it, and they kind of walked off hand in hand. Now, again, these are kids, and it's kind of a simplified version of the length of time it took and the work that it took for the floor tournament director and myself to work with the players and then the parents. But why I like this resolution is because I think some actual change in behavior and learning occurred, and I didn't have to text Melinda, or Ranae during the event. And it was just a good resolution. And I think that the awareness of mentioning SafePlay at the start of every round has helped us as tournament directors feel empowered to do such resolutions rather than the old, if you don't quit that behavior, I'm going to forfeit you. But we worked with the players to come to a better resolution, improve their behavior. And this was early in the tournament. I want to say this was round 3, and there were no other incidents from the threatening player ever throughout the other 5 games in the tournament, or the other 4 games in the tournament. So
Thank you, Martha.
You're welcome.
So now we're just going to get into the nuts and bolts of what's required for training. Most of you here probably already know. By June 1st, anyone who is not SafeSport core trained will have their certification changed to inactive. You won't be able to upload any reports. And of course, anyone who's coming along now who's looking to become a TD is going to have to take the SafeSport core training. So the cost is, like I said, probably most of you know all of this. It's $19, and you use the coupon code that's there. And this is a live link that takes you to the direction how to access the course. Some tips just to make sure that everything links to US Chess properly. Make sure you use your US Chess member ID number when asked for the organization ID. The exception is if you're not a member, use that very long number there as your member ID. And make sure when it asks for sport, you put in US Chess and not just chess, or else it will not link the ID properly. For those of you who have completed your core training and are looking to do the refresher training, you have to do this annually to maintain your certification. You have to do it by the 1-year anniversary date of your previous training. So if you completed your core course on March 1st of 2024, you would have to complete your refresher training by March 1st of 2025 with a 30-day grace period. So it'll be March 30th. We recommend, because you don't want to set, whenever you take the refresher course, that sets a new year. So if your training was completed March 1st and you take the refresher course in January, then the next time you have to take it would be the following January. So take it as close to your anniversary date as makes you feel comfortable. And once again, it's the same thing. Your certification will be changed and inactive if you don't meet the deadline. So it's $9 annually. There's a separate coupon code to get the $9, and this is a link that will take you to how to access the refresher course. Just another reminder, it must be completed by June 1st. This takes up 2 slides, but this is a screenshot of what your page will look like if you don't take the core course by June 1st. You're going to start getting this error warning that you haven't taken your SafeSport testing. And I ran over to 2 slides, but this is basically what it looks like. So this probably we did not advertise enough. So we're just going to go over what happens after you complete SafeSport training, because a lot of people, they get their certificate and it doesn't show up on their dashboard immediately, and they're now what? So once you complete the training on your SafeSport dashboard, make sure you use the same email address for both SafeSport and US Chess, and that your ID number is correct, and you've used US Chess and not Chess as your sport. So if that's all correct, you're done. We're going to be automatically notified. We can pull a report from SafeSport at any time, and your name will be on there if you've met all these requirements. So you don't need to call us or send in your certificate or let us know that you've completed training. We will have that on record. But it takes us a while to get it into our system. So give us about 2 weeks for your verification to show up on your dashboard. And we also update the SafeSport training database every Monday, so you can always look for your name in there as well. So if 2 weeks have gone by and this hasn't shown up in your dashboard, please do contact me at that point, because there might be something that's not linking. We might have to have you go to the SafeSport help desk, or it may be something that we can fix on our end. So just give it 2 weeks. Don't panic, because we do have it on our SafeSport report, so we do know that you have completed the training. And then this is just some resources, and this is all at our SafePlay hub. So this is all of the things we just talked about. And then this next slide is some of the other resources that are mandatory reporting by state, this US Center for SafeSport, and then some hotlines and other organizations that deal with, children and abuse and other issues that we hope we don't see too much of. And then if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. We've got the QR code here. Go to the SafePlay hub, or you can find me all over the website at this point. So just contact me if you have any questions.